June 22, 2025. A seemingly ordinary day, but one that would soon be etched in the annals of history. The world held its breath, unaware of the seismic shift about to occur. President Donald Trump, in a move that stunned the international community, orders targeted airstrikes inside Iran. The decision, shrouded in secrecy until the very last moment, sent ripples of disbelief and apprehension across the globe. The strikes immediately sent shockwaves through the Middle East, a region already simmering with geopolitical tensions and fragile alliances. The carefully calibrated attacks hit strategic locations, igniting fears of a wider conflict. Back in Washington, the president's actions ignited fierce debate, splitting the nation along ideological lines. The halls of Congress buzzed with urgent discussions as lawmakers grappled with the implications of this bold and controversial decision. Supporters of the president hailed the strikes as a decisive show of strength, a necessary measure to protect American interests on the global stage. They argued that decisive action was needed to deter further aggression and maintain stability in the region. They further asserted that these actions were crucial in reassuring American allies, demonstrating a commitment to their security and fostering a united front against potential threats. The message was clear: America would stand by its partners. However, lawmakers from both parties, crossing the usual political divides, began to question the very foundation of the president's authority to act unilaterally in matters of war. The central question emerged: did the president have the constitutional right to launch such significant attacks without explicit approval from the United States Congress? This wasn't just a simple policy dispute or a disagreement over strategy. It quickly escalated into a fundamental clash over the very essence of the separation of powers, the bedrock of American governance. The core question loomed large: can one single person, the president, commit the entire nation to a path of war? Or is it the solemn duty of Congress, representing the will of the people, to have a decisive say in matters of war and peace? Critics of the president's actions warned of the dangers of executive overreach and the very real risk of plunging the nation into yet another costly and protracted conflict with potentially devastating consequences. For many within the halls of Congress, this moment represented a crucial opportunity to reassert the legislative branch's constitutional role, particularly in the weighty decisions surrounding war and the pursuit of peace. In the chapters that follow, we'll delve deep into the legal framework governing such actions, examining the intricacies of the War Powers Resolution, and amplifying the voices on both sides of this urgent and critical debate, seeking to understand the motivations and concerns driving each perspective. Understanding the nature and depth of these divisions is absolutely key to grasping the profound stakes involved, not only for the future of American democracy itself, but also for the trajectory of its foreign policy and its role on the world stage. The United States Constitution, a document that lays the foundation for our government, explicitly grants specific powers to each branch. One of the most significant of these is that it does not give the president the power to unilaterally declare war. Instead, it vests the sole power to declare war in the hands of the United States Congress. This is a crucial distinction. The framers of the Constitution, figures like James Madison, deeply wary of unchecked executive power after their experiences with the British monarchy, deliberately wanted war decisions to be made by those most directly accountable to the people, the representatives in Congress. They believed this would ensure greater deliberation and prevent rash decisions. Yet, despite this clear constitutional mandate, modern presidents across different administrations often sidestep this requirement, citing the need for swift action in an increasingly complex and dangerous world. They argue that waiting for congressional approval can be too slow in times of crisis. Critics of actions like Trump's Iran strikes, including voices like Senator Timkaine, forcefully argue that initiating military actions such as bombing another country constitutes an act of war, regardless of the justification. And therefore, they believe, it is fundamentally requiring congressional approval before any such action is taken. They say the president's actions, when taken without congressional consent, directly violate the Constitution, undermining the separation of powers. This concern transcends party lines, drawing criticism from both Democrats and Republicans, regardless of party affiliation. Supporters of presidential action counter that the commander-in-chief must have the flexibility to act quickly and decisively to defend the nation from imminent threats, without being hampered by lengthy legislative debates. This inherent tension between the need for executive flexibility in a crisis and the constitutional imperative of legislative authority over matters of war is at the very heart of the ongoing debate and the current constitutional crisis we are facing. The Iran strikes and the legal and political battles that followed are just the latest chapter in a long and complex struggle over the balance of war powers in the United States. After Vietnam, Congress passed the War Powers Resolution of 1973 to reclaim its authority over war. The law requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours and limits troop deployments to 60 days without congressional approval. Supporters see it as a vital check on unilateral presidential wars. But every president since Nixon has challenged its constitutionality, often ignoring its limits. In the Iran crisis, lawmakers demand Trump comply with the resolution. They're introducing measures to force a vote on ending hostilities. This is Congress's most direct way to challenge the president and reassert its war powers. The outcome will signal whether Congress can truly check the executive. The War Powers Resolution remains a battleground for the balance of power. Trump's allies argue the airstrikes were necessary to protect American security and deter Iranian aggression. They claim the president's Article 2 powers allow swift military action against imminent threats. Key Republicans, like Senators Graham and Wicker, praise the strikes as a show of strength. Supporters say waiting for Congress would have risked American lives and emboldened Iran. They point to a history of presidents ordering limited strikes without prior approval. For them, this is about preventing a larger war and supporting allies like Israel. Critics, they argue, are motivated by politics, not principle. The strikes, in their view, are part of a broader strategy to maintain regional stability. Opposition to the strikes is bipartisan and intense. Democrats like Schumer and Jeffries accuse Trump of bypassing Congress and risking war without a clear plan. Some Republicans, including Massie and Green, also question the legality and necessity of the strikes. They warn against endless wars and unchecked executive power. Senator Timkaine leads efforts to restore Congress's war authority, insisting only lawmakers can authorize war. Progressive Democrats like Ocasio-Cortez and Tlaib go further, calling the strikes unconstitutional and even raising impeachment. The anger reflects deep fears about the erosion of democratic checks and balances. For many, this is a fight for the soul of American democracy. The airstrikes followed weeks of escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. Israeli attacks on Iranian facilities triggered Iranian missile retaliation, raising fears of regional war. Trump denied U.S. involvement in Israel's actions, but warned Iran against targeting Americans. Amid global calls for restraint, Trump ordered strikes on Iranian military sites, citing threats to U.S. forces. Critics demand proof of an imminent threat, accusing the administration of secrecy and overreach. Congress's response was swift. Senator Kaine introduced legislation to limit Trump's war powers even before the strikes. The decision to proceed confirmed lawmakers' worst fears and set up a constitutional showdown. The stage is now set for a battle over war powers in Washington. The airstrikes have sparked talk of impeachment. Ocasio-Cortez argues Trump's unilateral action is a grave constitutional violation. While Democratic leaders hesitate, progressives demand more than a war powers resolution. They see impeachment as a defense of the Constitution, not just political payback. The precedent for impeaching over war powers is thin, but the stakes are high. Even the mention of impeachment raises the stakes, signaling a crisis of governance. The debate is no longer just about policy. It's about the legitimacy of presidential authority. This clash is a test of American democracy. Will war decisions be made by public debate and Congress, or by a single leader? Critics warn that unchecked executive power threatens democratic institutions and invites abuse. The conflict risks isolating the U.S. internationally and entangling it in another endless war. There's also the danger of retaliation against Americans at home and abroad. The struggle over war powers is about accountability, transparency, and the rule of law. If Congress fails to act, it risks permanent irrelevance on matters of war. The outcome will set a precedent for future presidents and conflicts. The next chapter unfolds within the hallowed halls of Congress, a place where history is constantly being written and rewritten. The weight of decisions made here reverberates far beyond these walls, impacting lives across the nation and the globe. Where lawmakers are preparing to cast a crucial vote on a war powers resolution, a measure designed to reassert congressional authority over matters of military engagement. The debate surrounding this resolution has been intense, reflecting deep divisions within the government and among the American people. At its core, the resolution seeks to direct President Trump to cease all hostilities with Iran, a nation with whom tensions have been escalating for quite some time. The situation in the Middle East remains volatile, and any misstep could have catastrophic consequences. The resolution stipulates that such actions must end unless Congress explicitly authorizes further military action, a critical check on executive power. This is not just about Iran. It's about the balance of power enshrined in the Constitution. This upcoming public vote will force every single member of Congress, regardless of party affiliation, to publicly take a definitive stand on the complex and often contentious issue of presidential war powers, a debate that has raged for decades. The implications of this vote are far-reaching. If the resolution is passed by both houses of Congress, it would serve as a significant rebuke to the White House, signaling a clear disapproval of the president's current approach to foreign policy. It would also place considerable pressure on President Trump to either comply with the will of Congress or openly defy its authority, a decision that could trigger a constitutional crisis. The stakes are incredibly high. However, a presidential veto of the resolution is widely anticipated, given the administration's strong stance on maintaining its foreign policy prerogatives. And overriding that veto would require a supermajority, a two-thirds vote in both the House and the Senate, a formidable hurdle to overcome. The path forward is fraught with challenges. The ultimate outcome hinges on whether a sufficient number of Republicans are willing to break ranks with their party and vote against the president, a decision that could have significant political repercussions for them. Regardless of the immediate outcome, the debate surrounding this War Powers resolution has already exposed deep and fundamental divisions within the United States regarding America's role and responsibilities on the global stage. It has also brought into sharp focus the ongoing struggle to define the limits of executive power, a struggle that has been a constant feature of American political life since the founding of the Republic. The fight over this resolution is about far more than just Iran and the immediate geopolitical concerns. It's a pivotal moment that will shape the future direction of U.S. foreign policy for years to come and determine the very balance of power within our constitutional framework. The votes that are cast now, in this moment of national importance, will undoubtedly echo through the corridors of time, impacting generations yet unborn and shaping the world they will inherit.